Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/PettyRevenge, where people get small revenges on those who've wronged them, and the stories are so satisfying. And in today's episode, we're dealing with sibling rivalries, guys. Weddings are ruined, tantrums are being thrown, careers are getting destroyed. It's wild. I hope you enjoy the stories. Try not to chuckle too hard at some of these. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So my useless brother is 53 years old, and he's lived off of our parents his whole life. The guy's never bought his own car or paid his own rent. He's never even paid his own child support. Our mom died a couple of years ago, and his behavior really spiraled. He had always been a violent drunk, and after her death, he was always drunk. He also became more and more abusive to our dad, often telling everyone that he can't wait for the old effer to die. When he was finally arrested, I was able to step in and take care of Dad for the last 5 months of his life. I had tried before, but the fog of abuse was too dense, and my dad couldn't admit that his son had betrayed him like that. Over the months of me caring for him, my dad shook free of that fog, and he wanted me to throw everything of my brother's away. He wanted him to get nothing from him ever again. Now, I didn't toss his stuff, I just put it in a storage building. Dad changed his will to leave the land to my nephew, my brother's 10-year-old son, and everything else divided between brother and me, or so I thought. After he died, I found out that the land was deeded to nephew, and everything else went to me, all of the physical possessions that weren't the land or the mobile home. 20 minutes after my brother found out about Dad's death, he shows up to throw me out of the trailer. He also tried to get into the bank and change the funeral so he could get the death certificate. The lawyer told me I did have to get out, but since all physical possessions but the home were willed to me, I was okay to take everything and move it into storage if I chose to, so I did. Our cousins were happy to help. My kids and husband also joined in, and in 4 days, we were able to get 99% of the stuff moved out. Dad didn't want brother to have anything, and I left him nothing, not even a single fork. I turned off the power, the water, the trash, and the internet. His car will be repossessed if he can't make the payments that Dad used to help with, and he'll lose the trailer home if he doesn't get a mortgage to cover what's owed. He only works 2 days a week making pizza, so the banks may be reluctant. I have a feeling he'll lose it all. Now, I have a ton of stuff that I don't need in 2 giant storage units, but my real inheritance is knowing that I get to watch my brother figure out how to grow up at 53 years old. Oh my goodness, I love how petty this is. And honestly, at 53 years old, I don't know whether to shake my head or be sad for the guy, because you know Dad was probably enabling that behavior, causing brother to be like that. But yeah, Dad wanted brother to have nothing when he dies, and he will get nothing. And for all who are wondering about an update, OP does pop into the comments to say that 6 months later, the home is facing foreclosure. So literally, brother had 1 shot to grow the heck up, and now he really has nothing. And this person comments, "Pro tip, if you did leave him a fork, you could have bent the tines, so it was giving him the middle finger." So my stepsister was raised to expect everything handed to her on a platter. She's the firstborn idol of her side of the family. She's not an only child, but she fills every cliche of the spoiled, bratty only child. I feel sorry for her brother and sister. My stepsister is also a bigoted, racist cow. The filth that spills from her mouth and her attitudes about anyone who's not attractive, cool, or normal is sickening. I've lived with it for years, and I'm pretty bitter about it, though I do keep the peace for my mom's sake. I'm not terribly confident at the best of times, though I will stand my ground when it comes to that kind of bigotry, but her confidence is absolute. She feels she's right all the time, and she entirely dismisses anything that stands in the way of her bigotry. And she goes into attack if she feels threatened, and everything threatens her. Holy crap, I hate her. Occasionally, I will check her Facebook page. We're not friends, but it's worth seeing what she's up to prepare for her dramas before they hit the family. That aside, before her wedding, she had a meltdown on Facebook at the cost of the photographer she wanted. Now I know the guy she wanted to use, and the guy's damn good, and he charges worthwhile prices for good work. Now the kicker here is that's my profession too. Most of my income comes through my photography, commercial and product though, not weddings, thankfully. And in a little post on the wall of a friend of hers, hidden from general view, she said that she planned to get around paying for a wedding photographer altogether by inviting me to the wedding. My stepsister knows that I always have a camera on me, and I'm always snapping pictures, especially at nice events such as weddings. So this presumptive cow decided that she would get free wedding photos out of me. And here's the petty revenge. The day of the wedding, I brought my worst camera body with a broken flash and a useless lens that suffered water damage. It took photos with bad halos around everything, and I took photos constantly. Of her, of the wedding guest, anything, you name it. I even saw her smirking when she saw me taking pictures. I took photos constantly in small JPG mode. The day after the wedding, she asked for the photos from me, and I gave her the cards with them all on, straight from the camera. When she saw the photos, it made her cry. She went effing mental at me, telling everyone in the family that I ruined her special day, and now she's got no pictures at all to remember that day. But what's funny is not a single soul except her and her husband laid any blame on me for taking crap photos, because I was never hired for the job, and I was never told to my face that I would be needed as a photographer, let alone paid for anything. If she had a clue beyond the superficial, she would realize that her wedding, the actual event, and the marriage that followed was the most special part of all. But no, she considers the ability to show off her wedding to be the most important thing, and because of me, she couldn't boast about it on Facebook. Absolutely brilliant play by OP. Like, talk about trying to use someone gone horribly wrong, and that's what she gets, right? And here's another thing OP could have done. They could have brought along a regular camera, taken beautiful pictures of everyone and everything, except for her nasty stepsister and the groom. I'm talking cups, chairs, people laughing, having fun, small butterflies, nothing of her, and then tag everyone in the photos on Facebook. I think that's what I would have done. And guys, while we're on the topic of weddings, the next OP talks about the time her half-sister tried to steal her engagement party. My half-sister Heather and I never really got along. We're both 24 years old. My dad left my mom for her mom, and we were born the same month, 20 days apart. It's always been weird. It doesn't help that Heather's mom hates me and my mom. By extension, Heather and I didn't have the best relationship. She's always tried to one-up me, even though we both have a similar economic background. I can give examples of this, but to keep on topic, I won't share. So now, my fiance and I got engaged last month, and we had our engagement party this Saturday. We had planned it originally as a casual, formal event. Nice dresses, but not I'm going to the Met Gala nice. More like we're going to a good restaurant nice. Anyway, my cousin hits me up saying she has to show me something. It was the picture of the dress Heather was gonna wear. And the dress, oh my goodness. It can only be described as opulent. It was long and white, strapless, with sewn-in crystals and golden accents. I'm pretty sure it's a wedding dress because Heather is the type of person to do that. This made me really mad, so I decided, F that. I start texting people telling them that there was a change in plans, and instead of a casual formal, I decided to make it a costume party. My mother's side is crazy for Halloween, so they were immediately on board. I told my father via text, and I asked him to relay the message to Heather and her mom, knowing full well that he would forget, and forget he did. Saturday comes along and guests start showing up, most of them in costumes. Some didn't have time to get one, so we provided them with fun hats and cheap wigs. Heather, my dad, and her mother came like 1 hour late. As soon as she notices that everyone's either wearing elaborate costumes or weird accessories, and she didn't stand out, she completely lost it. She threw a tantrum worthy of an Oscar, especially when my fiance came along and told her that her bride dress looked amazing for a cheap costume. Heather left crying, and her mother and my father told me that I was being childish, and I could have told Heather myself and not have asked my father. Update. So I got married, and it was an eventful and thankfully drama-free day. My father was not in attendance. After my engagement party, I realized that he would never choose me willingly. Even if he loves me, he doesn't love me enough to stand up for me. He constantly allows his wife and daughter to walk over me and even become abusive. So I wrote him a lengthy email from my old email account. It detailed my resentful feelings against him and uninvited him from the wedding. And then I logged out because I know myself. I would be upset with his answer, and if he wouldn't answer, I would also be upset. I also blocked him and his family from all access. I went cold turkey. I even changed phone providers and deleted my social media accounts for a while. He did try to contact me through my mom, and she said it was just upsetting. So I told her I didn't want to know. But here's some unhinged things that happened after the wedding. Number 1. I got a cease and desist letter from my half-sister. It was very vague and weird, but we quickly found out that it was only a fake one she got from Google. Number 2. My stepmom followed me to the supermarket and she tried to intimidate me to apologize to Heather. She made the produce wildly uncomfortable. Number 3. My father tried to pick me up at work. He was walking next to me while I went to my car. He was trying to get me to apologize to Heather and her mom. He said that I should be the bigger person and that I know how both of them are. So I told him that he must be mistaken because my father is dead. He just stood there as I drove off. I went no contact with my father and his family, and the sad thing is, I don't even miss my father. His absence has made zero negative effect on my life. Nothing else has changed. I still have my old job, I'm not pregnant, we have the same old apartment. We did redecorate though, so that's all for me. Not all too dramatic. You know, sometimes the best revenge is just living your best life, and it sounds like OP's living the best life now that the toxic people are out of her life. But yeah, ridiculous, right? How they started stalking and harassing OP to apologize to nasty Heather. Like seriously, why is it always on the person who was wronged to be the bigger person? I just enjoy knowing that OP did not apologize and she just cut them out because again, sometimes cutting out the horrible people in your life is the only option. So I come from a family of 6. My parents, my older sister, my older brother, my little brother, and me. Often, in order to bribe us into good behavior, our parents would buy us our favorite candy to munch on in the car. Now, I've never exactly been a giving person, not huge on sharing just for the sake of sharing. My parents, however, were trying to raise respectful and generous kids, and they often forced me to share things when I didn't want to. And that's all fine and good, except my sister abused the system. You see, she would say she didn't want a bag of candy, and then, once we're on the road, she would start taking candy from all 3 brothers. And that really pissed me off. I didn't get candy often, as my mom didn't like feeding us sugary food. So when I got my own bag of Sour Patch watermelon, I wanted to eat every last one myself. Besides, my parents would always offer to buy her a bag of candy for herself. She would just refuse because she knew she could leech off the rest of us. So after a point, I start refusing her request for candy. But that didn't fly with my mom because that was being selfish, so she would force me to hand over the candy. One time, I even said when I purchased my bag at CVS, "Sister, I'm not gonna give you any of my candy. If you want Sour Patch, buy your own right now." She responds, "I'm fine. I don't want a whole bag of candy." Well, fast forward 20 minutes into the car ride, and my father was requesting a candy to give to my sister. and I sat fuming. This went on for years, my whole life really, and I hated it. I would hide my candy when I got it, and I would try to keep it out of her reach, but a parent would always intervene. That said, fast forward to my sister's college graduation. She's now 22, and I'm a senior in high school at this point. And we're up at her school at a fancy restaurant celebrating after she graduated that morning. In attendance are all immediate and some extended family, some close friends of my sister and her long-term boyfriend, who I was meeting for the first time. So enough people for the following to be embarrassing to my family. So our meal ends and my mom offers to buy a nice dessert for anyone who wants it. My brothers, my dad, and I take her up on it. I order a vanilla bean cheesecake with a sugar bird's nest on top. My mom repeatedly offers to buy my sister anything she wants, but my sister says she can't possibly eat a full dessert right now, and she turns it down every time. So the food arrives and everyone's staring at mine. I'm sitting right at the head of the table in full view of everyone, so it's hard not to look. And aside from the cake slice being large and delicious looking, the bird's nest is huge and ornate, hollow on the inside, like an old-timey brass globe or something. Honestly, it was pretty impressive. And right as the food gets placed in front of us, my sister says, "Oh, I'll just have a bite of everyone's." At this point, I'm seeing red, having flashbacks to all the times my food's been stolen. Logically, the right thing to do would have been to hand over one bite. I mean, it was her graduation, and it was a huge cake. It would have been no loss. But it became a matter of principle. So the moment she says this, in one fell swoop, in full view of everyone at the table, I sweep up my slice of cheesecake, and I stuff the entire thing in my mouth all at once. The sugar nest was shattered and crumbs were flying everywhere, in front of my whole family and some college students close to my sister, who again, I've never met in my life. My sister stares appalled and she says, "Did you just do that so I wouldn't get any?" And I look at her, my cheeks ballooning like a chipmunk, face covered in cheesecake and graham, dead in the eyes, and I nod. There was a fair bit of shocked silence at the moment, and we had a very tense car ride home. But to this day, she never asks for anything from me anymore. I'm just surprised OP didn't do something like that sooner. And that is such a petty brother thing to do, isn't it? Shove all the cake in your mouth so your entitled sister doesn't get any. And I'm all for Team OP, guys, because that would be annoying as heck, right? Like, I feel the parents should have taught sister from a young age that her saying no to things does have consequences. Like, you don't get to say I don't want it and then take from others when you suddenly want it now. Why not get a bag and save the rest for later? It would only make sense. It just blew my mind that the habit followed her up until she was 22 years old. And what's surprising is that people are sharing comments that this happens a lot. So my older brother, who's 35 years old, has gotta be one of the dumbest people I know. He was so stupid. Like, stupid enough to fall for a pretty picture on a Facebook dating chat page. The guy chatted via Snapchat and Messenger before stupidly sending nude photos and lewd videos. The whole pickle. 35 and stupid lied that he was a CEO, and the scammer, obviously missing some brain cells because looking at my brother with the grotty sink in the photo and the clothes, definitely did not scream CEO, and they fell for it. Now, my brother and I don't always get along, but I do love my brother. He's got the ability to be the sharpest pencil, but F me, does he make some of the dumbest impulsive choices. This brother of mine is panicking, calling me saying I'm being blackmailed, they have my nudes, and they're gonna send it to people I know if I don't give them money, and I can't pay them. I told him he was an idiot, and I said I would handle it. And to be fair, the guy was crapping himself in case our mom got messaged by these people. And to be fair, she is to be feared. Our mom has accidentally received one of his nude pictures meant for one of his special friends before. And if she got this, he was going to die. The account messages me, and I told them they were brain dead if they believed he had money. They said I should pay them or else they'll leak the nudes. That's when I told them, do it. He's got no money to give you. I don't have money to give you. Nobody knows who he is. No one cares, and at most, my mom's just gonna whip his ass for being stupid. They reply, he's a CEO and we will ruin him. And then they send me his nudes, which I deleted because, ew. I then sent a video of my face laughing and telling them that they're dumb as heck for believing him, after seeing a picture of him with his prison tattoos and messy bathroom. I then create a group chat with 2 of my friends, who I explained the situation to, and we bullied the crap out of the account. They kept removing themselves, and we just kept adding them back. They would say, please stop re-adding me to this chat, leave me alone. And I would reply, no, you pay me $700 and we'll stop being bigger a-holes than you were. That's when another account messages me, saying they were the girl's boss, and they would make good on their threats if I don't leave them alone. So I added them to the bully chat, and we continued until the accounts went dead, which took maybe 2 straight hours. They both threatened to share the nudes on this Austrian chat site. And I was like, okay, dummies, we don't know anyone in Austria, so enjoy no money and looking dumb. They had to block me and my friends because I kept re-adding them. And eventually, they blocked my brother too, because he told them that he was going to add them back to the chat. I was a broke bartender and I was out having drinks with a lot of anger. I got time to get even Steven, even if my older brother was such an idiot who created this mess. And my mom never found out. I should remind my older brother that he owes me a beer for being a top-notch a-hole of a sibling. Yeah, I don't even know what to say to this, aside from don't send those types of pictures to randoms because you never know, right? Thank goodness OP and his friends were there to help him out because he might have been in some deep crap. Also, I find it so funny how those scammers threatened OP and his brother, but then have the audacity to tell OP to leave them alone after they were harassed. Guess they didn't like the same game being pulled on them. And guys, this last post isn't about siblings going to war against each other. It's about the time OP destroys a man's career after he messed with his sister. This happened over 6 years ago, and it's one of my proudest moments. I'm 8 years older than my sister, and although we didn't live in the same town anymore by the time she graduated high school, I was so excited for her to attend university because she applied for the same program I did, and knowing her, she was going to effing kill it in a way I never could. A bit about me is I'm shy, awkward, and overall non-confrontational. She's fierce, charming, and she never backs down from a fight. So when she told me that she was traveling down south for a conference related to a potential major, I was really excited for her. The conference also had a career fair, and it was gonna be the first one she's ever attended. I gave her some advice on how to present herself, and she had her resumes and some companies in mind, and I knew she was going to do great. Cut to the day after, and I get a call from her in distress. She wasn't sure how a certain networking interaction went, and she wanted to ask me what I thought. She told me that there was a man from a certain company who took great interest in her resume, so he pulls her aside and he wanted to talk to her further. He then asked which hotel she was staying at, and then said that he should take her to dinner that evening to talk more. At the same time he said that, this man, who she said looked older than our dad, reached out and stroked a strand of her hair. At this point, she starts crying, and I saw red. I asked her for this man's name and the company he worked for, and told her to avoid that table and company at all costs. I told her she did nothing wrong, and he was being extremely inappropriate. Also, as this man had her resume, he had texted her phone number, saying he was in front of her hotel and to come out, and she avoided responding because she was scared. I didn't think it was possible for me to be more enraged than I already was. She was 18 years old, this was her first career fair, and she was terrified of career fairs because of this sleazy old man. I told her I would take care of it and then hung up. I immediately told my boss that I need to take the first half of the day off for a personal matter. I then looked up this man's LinkedIn so I could put a face to the rage and disgust I felt. I then contacted my company's HR and I asked what the procedure would be if an employee of ours engaged in behavior like this while on company time. She had wonderful advice and she urged me to contact this man's company's HR department as well. So I did. I left a detailed email with what had happened and their employee's name and the location of the conference and career fair where he'd been representing their company. I left my name and number as well in case they wanted to know more details, and I recall getting a call from their HR department soon afterward, telling me that they were taking this seriously and they were going to investigate. The woman sounded very sympathetic. She told me that this man was someone who had been with the company for a while, and he had actually retired, so now he was mainly focused on recruitment for the company, somewhat on a consultant level. I want to say that by early afternoon, I received an email that this man had been let go from the company completely, and they thanked me for my report. The speed at which this all happened lends me to believe that this was not the first time. Either that or his behavior was such a liability, because who would send a creep to recruitment? And let me tell you, that was the most fulfilling cackle that I've ever cackled in all of my days. I called my sister up and I told her the news and she was amazed. She thanked me and we talked a little more about what to look out for when networking. That being pulled aside generally is a good thing, but it sucks that this person took advantage of that. The good news is, 6 years later, my sister has her bachelor's and master's degree, and she's currently rocking her career at a meaningful startup in her field. I'm still a shy, awkward, and relatively non-confrontational dude, but if you come for my siblings, I go for blood. Only I get to mess with them. This is just so wholesome, isn't it? No one gets to mess with my sibling but me. But what a creep though, right? Like clearly the guy schmoozed his way into a job where he would be the one that all the 18-year-olds who are trying to get into the industry would have to talk to. And then he used that position to flirt with the best looking ones. And seriously, I guarantee that OP's sister wasn't the first girl he tried this with, but I hope she's the last, since OP ruined that man's encore career. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /PettyRevenge. Guys, if you enjoyed today's stories, hit that thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled People episode, where it's all about bad coworkers this time, getting absolutely ruined. Guys, go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.